Welcome to LexiCast, a podcast designed to help you grow in your legal practice, with weekly updates on current topics, trends, and practical insights. Perfect for listening on the go. Let's dive in.
Welcome to the deep dive. If you're listening to this, you are likely a legal professional, which means your days are totally consumed by casework, court prep, dealing with clients.
You don't have time for a textbook IT lecture.
No, you really don't. So today we are dissecting a highly practical resource on cyber risks for law firms. Specifically, we're looking at some really great insights from Zahn Nell, who is the CIO of FilePro.
And we should probably establish right up front that this won't be some abstract lecture on encryption algorithm.
Right, no jargon.
Yeah, exactly. As lawyers, you deal with complex systems every single day. So we want to get straight to the actual mechanisms of how modern law firms are being breached, why the traditional defenses are failing, and what the consequences actually look like.
Okay, let's unpack this, because there is a glaring paradox at the heart of how legal practices operate today. I mean, think about your physical office.
Right.
You have locked filing cabinets, key card access, maybe alarm systems. You guard physical client documents with your life because, well, that is your ethical duty.
Absolutely.
But when we look at the digital front door, where like 99% of your actual sensitive data lives, a lot of firms are effectively leaving it propped wide open.
It's a massive contradiction. And the reality we really have to validate here is that the ethical duty to safeguard client data, it hasn't diminished at all.
Right.
But the battlefield has entirely shifted. The strict ethical obligation to maintain client confidentiality, it now lives in the cloud.
Yeah, the digital space.
Exactly. You are just as responsible for a digital breach as you would be if you, accidentally left a box of sensitive discovery documents sitting on a bench in a public park.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that puts it in perspective.
The standard of care applies equally to your IT infrastructure.
Yeah.
There's no pass just because it's on a computer.
Which brings us to the front line of that infrastructure, right? The absolute basic entry point. Passwords.
The low-hanging fruit.
Exactly. Our source material, it makes it super clear that the days of having a generic firm-wide password, something like, Smith Law 2024.
Please don't use that.
Right, those days are over. But I kind of want to push back on this a bit because I know why firms do it. I mean, it's like leaving a single physical key under the welcome mat for the entire office staff to use.
Yeah, it's convenient.
It's super convenient. Lawyers are juggling dozens of platforms, court portals, research databases. The cognitive load is huge. So they reuse passwords or just use simple ones?
Oh, the cognitive load is very real. But reusing passwords is a catastrophic vulnerability.
Even for small firms?
Especially for small firms. Look, hackers aren't usually sitting there in a dark room guessing your password character by character.
Right, like in the movies.
Yeah, it's not like that.
Yeah.
They use automated credential stuffing. They buy massive lists of passwords exposed in other breaches, say a fitness app or a hotel chain.
Oh, right.
And they run them against your law firm's login portals. If a paralegal used the same password for their gym membership that they use for their Office 365 account, the hacker is inside.
Boom. Just like that.
Just like that.
Right.
That is why unique, complex passwords are the baseline. But what's fascinating here is that even a strong password is no longer enough. We have to talk about multi-factor authentication, or MFA.
Right, getting that text message or, the app notification with a code before you log in.
Exactly.
But let me ask you about the friction there. Because lawyers bill in 6-minute increments, time is literally money for them.
It really is.
So if I have to authenticate my device like 5 times a day, that is lost billable time. It disrupts the workflow. How do you convince a managing partner that this daily friction is actually worth it?
You convince them by looking at their cyber insurance policy?
Oh, okay. Money talks.
Always.
Yeah.
We've moved past the point where MFA is just a nice-to-have best practice recommended by some IT consultant. It is now a hard, non-negotiable requirement for securing business cyber insurance.
Wow. So they won't even cover you.
Insurers have looked at the threat landscape, and they are flat out refusing to underwrite firms that don't have this basic lock on the door. And here is the truly terrifying part for a managing partner.
Lay it on me.
If you claim you have MFA active on your insurance application, but a breach occurs, and the forensics team discovers a lawyer had toggled it off because it was, quote-unquote, too annoying,
Oh, no.
your insurer will likely deny the claim. You will be paying for the fallout of that breach entirely out of pocket.
So the friction of taking 4 seconds to tap an app on your phone is the literal difference between being covered for $1 million loss and facing bankruptcy.
Pretty much, yeah.
That puts the billable time argument to rest pretty quickly. But even if you have MFA locked down, the source material points out that the underlying systems themselves might be inherently vulnerable.
Oh, absolutely.
Specifically, I want to talk about the lingering systems from the pandemic. Let's talk about the work from home hangover.
The hangover is real. The transition to remote work, it forced firms to adopt temporary duct tape solutions overnight.
Right, we all remember March 2020.
Exactly. The problem is many firms never went back to replace that duct tape with proper infrastructure. Remote work is now the norm, but the architecture supporting it at a lot of mid-sized and smaller firms is wildly insecure.
And the source highlights a really specific, kind of alarming example of this involving Remote Desktop Protocol, or RDP.
Yeah, this one is rough.
A lot of lawyers connect to their physical office desktop from their laptop at home. But the way this was set up during the pandemic often meant the computer screen in the physical office had to be left on, open, and actively mirroring whatever the lawyer was doing remotely.
Precisely. The host machine in the office is rendering the session, which means anyone who walks into that empty, darkened physical office can just stand there and view sensitive client work in real time without authorization.
Okay, I have to play devil's advocate here for a second because this sounds a bit like an IT boogeyman.
Sure, go ahead.
Are we really worried about, like, a late-night office cleaner stopping their vacuuming to lean over a desk and intensely read a complex 40-page legal brief on an unlocked monitor?
It's a common pushback, but it entirely misses the legal standard of care. It is not about the reading comprehension or the malicious intent of a cleaner.
Okay, then what is it about?
It's about the objective loss of control over the environment. Unauthorized viewing is a strict breach of client confidentiality.
Ah, I see.
Furthermore, you're assuming it's just a cleaner. What if it's a disgruntled contractor? What if it's maintenance staff who snap a quick photo of a screen showing a high-profile merger and sell that information?
Right. They just need a smartphone.
Exactly. You are leaving client secrets exposed to the open air. The mechanism itself is flawed.
That makes a lot of sense. The breach isn't defined by what the unauthorized person does with the info. The breach is the exposure itself.
You nailed it.
Now, the source brings up another massive vulnerability tied to remote work and Office 365, which leads to business email compromise.
Yes, BEC. Jeez.
Huge. I want to spend some time here because this isn't just someone reading your emails, this is active sabotage. How does a business email compromise actually function mechanically?
Let's use a physical analogy.
Wow.
Imagine a fraudster manages to sneak into your law firm's physical mailroom.
Okay, got the picture.
They don't burn the mailroom down. Instead, they quietly intercept the mail cart. They find an envelope from a client containing a settlement check. They steam it open, remove the check, put in a forged document with new bank routing numbers.
Whoa.
They reseal it and put it back on the cart to be delivered to your accounting desk.
So nobody knows they were even there until the money goes to the wrong place.
Exactly. In the digital realm, hackers use those stolen passwords we talked about earlier to log into a lawyer's Office 365 account. They don't immediately start sending spam. They employ what's called dwell time.
Dwell time, like they just hang out.
So they just sit in the inbox,
Yeah.
sometimes for months, silently reading the lawyer's communications.
That is so creepy.
It is. They learn the tone, they figure out the firm's billing cycle, the names of key clients. Then they set up hidden forwarding rules. So when an email comes in from a client discussing a wire transfer, it's automatically forwarded to a hidden folder the lawyer never even checks.
And then the hacker steps in, impersonates the lawyer, and sends the client fraudulent wiring instructions.
Yes. And the real tragedy here is Office 365 has built-in mechanisms to stop this.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it has robust multi-factor authentication that triggers when a login is attempted from an unrecognized device or a new geographic location.
Okay, so what's the problem?
The problem is, as the source notes, many law firms simply fail to toggle that feature on when they set up new remote devices. You are buying a state-of-the-art security system and purposely leaving it deactivated.
Unbelievable.
You're effectively holding the door open for the mailroom thief.
Which perfectly illustrates that technology is, totally useless without the human behavior to back it up. Tech doesn't configure itself, and policies don't enforce themselves.
Human error is the biggest variable.
Right. And that brings us to a major recommendation from the source material: the critical need for an IT champion within the firm.
Every firm needs a designated human being who actively leads discussions on security procedures. They bridge the gap between the external IT vendor and the daily realities of the legal staff.
They actually know how the office runs.
Exactly. They need to understand the firm's specific manual processes.
But I'm looking at this recommendation, and I have a logistical question.
Sure.
On paper, shouldn't this IT champion just be the most tech-savvy junior associate in the firm? Like, the 25-year-old who intimately understands the software, knows how to navigate Office 365, naturally adapts to new tech.
You would think so.
Right. So why does the source explicitly argue that this role must be held by someone in a senior position?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we realize that implementing cybersecurity in a law firm is not a technology issue. It is a change management issue.
Oh, that's an interesting way to look at it.
Yes, the junior associate understands the software perfectly. But do they possess the political capital required to walk into the office of a senior founding partner and tell them they are violating firm policy by refusing to use an authenticator app?
No, they don't. They have no enforcement power. The senior partner will just wave them away.
Precisely. When a senior leader, a managing partner or a director, champions cybersecurity, it gives those policies undeniable organizational weight. It proves that the firm's leadership values security as highly as billable hours.
It sets the tone.
Yes, that mindset filters down effectively through the entire business as a true cultural standard. If the leadership treats security training as an annoying chore, the associates will treat it as a chore. Security culture has to be enforced from the top down.
And getting that top-down buy-in inevitably leads us to the ultimate decision-making metric for any firm, the bottom line.
Always comes back to the bottom line.
Always. Upgrading infrastructure, changing culture, implementing strict security protocols, it all requires time and money. So how does a firm accurately assess the cost-benefit analysis of all this?
Well, the source emphasizes that when you look at the price tag of a comprehensive IT security overhaul, you cannot just weigh it against your current IT budget. You have to weigh it against the true cost of a breach.
Which is astronomical.
A data breach is not just an IT headache where computers are down for an afternoon. It is lost, fillable hours. It's the cost of forensic investigators, severe regulatory fines, and most importantly, it is a catastrophic hit to the firm's reputation.
And reputation is everything in law. I mean, if clients realize you cannot protect their most sensitive intellectual property or their settlement funds, they simply will not trust you with their legal matters.
And to avoid that, the source provides actionable frameworks you can utilize right now. One of the most important is engaging with external standards. Specifically, checking the Australian Cybersecurity Centre's website to review the Essential 8 maturity model.
I'm really glad you brought that up because the term maturity model gets thrown around a lot in tech spaces.
It does.
What actually is it, and how does a law firm apply it?
It's a fantastic framework because it's not a simple pass or fail checklist. It acknowledges that security is a spectrum. The Essential 8 are 8 fundamental mitigation strategies.
Like what?
They include things like application control, which means restricting which software can actually run on your network, preventing malicious code from executing.
Okay, that makes sense.
It includes patching applications, meaning consistently updating software to close known vulnerabilities. It also includes restricting administrative privileges, ensuring that only specific people have the power to alter system settings.
So where does the maturity part come in?
The maturity model grades your firm's implementation of those 8 strategies across different levels, based on the sophisticated tradecraft of the adversaries targeting you. Level 1 might protect you from basic automated attacks.
Like those credential stuffing bots.
Exactly. While Level 3 is designed to mitigate highly targeted attacks from sophisticated adversaries, you use the model to audit your firm. Are we a Level 1 or are we striving for Level 3? It gives you a roadmap for continuous improvement.
That makes it incredibly tangible. You can physically map out where your firm is vulnerable.
Yes.
And the source also mentions aligning your strategy with your insurance provider. You shouldn't just buy a policy and file it away in a cabinet. You need to ask your broker for real-world examples of incidents affecting firms similar to yours.
It's so vital. You need to establish a relationship with the insurance incident response team before an attack happens.
Right.
That proactive relationship is crucial. You need to know exactly who to call the minute a breach is detected because the first 24 hours dictate the entire trajectory of the fallout.
Here's where it gets really interesting because the source advises firms to actively rehearse their cybersecurity incident response.
Yes.
I was going to compare it to a fire drill, but let's use an analogy that hits closer to home for a legal audience. It's like a moot court.
Oh, I like that.
Right. You would never walk into a high-stakes appellate hearing without having rehearsed your arguments, anticipated the judge's questions, and run through the entire scenario multiple times with your team.
That is the perfect way to look at it. You don't want to be drafting your opening statement while the trial is actively happening. Exactly.
Similarly, when a hacker locks down your servers with ransomware, you do not want to be standing in the hallway reading the instruction manual on how to contact your forensics team.
That would be a disaster.
Complete disaster. You need muscle memory. You need every partner and associate to know exactly what the communication protocol is, what devices to unplug, and who the designated decision maker actually is.
It's about shifting the mindset from prevention to resilience.
Exactly. Small, incremental steps. Enforcing MFA, appointing an empowered IT champion, auditing yourself against the Essential 8, and running those moot court incident drills.
It all adds up.
They build a formidable foundation of resilience. It's the acknowledgement that a sophisticated breach might eventually slip through, but having a rehearsed clinical response ready to deploy the second it does. That is how you mitigate the damage, satisfy your regulatory requirements, and ultimately protect your clients. So, what does this all mean? If we synthesize everything, the core takeaway is this. Cybersecurity is no longer an isolated technical issue that can be delegated to an outsourced help desk and just forgotten about.
Not anymore.
No, it is a fundamental pillar of modern legal practice management. Implementing these safeguards is a core component of your ethical duty to your clients. Today, protecting your client's data is literally synonymous with protecting your client.
There's an operational reality. It requires senior leadership to wield their political capital. It requires deep cultural buy-in from every level of the staff. And it requires continuous rehearsed preparation against an evolving threat landscape.
Well, we want to thank you for joining us on this tailored deep dive. We know your time is tight, and we hope these insights give you the practical clarity and the specific mechanisms you need to secure your practice against these blind spots.
That's it for today's episode on LexiCast. If you're looking for more in-depth episodes that can also be claimed as CPD activities, check out our LexiCast CPD Plus page linked in this episode's notes. Follow us now to stay up to date, and we'll see you next time.